Okay, everybody. Once again, it's time for a Father's Authority. Nate Holloway, we got a special guest tonight, but what you know how we do it. We give everybody time to come in, and then we're going to get started at 8 o'clock. We got a good interview for you tonight. It's going to be off the chain. So you guys come on in, give you a minute. Got 2 minutes to go. See some people coming in. Guys, when you come in, just let me know your name and where you're watching from. I want to know where you're at.
Where you at?
Where you at? Better yet, where you is. My wife can get me for saying that. I'm gonna blame it on Pastor John. It's his fault I said it.
Oh yeah, I'll take the blame.
Guys, we got 1 minute.
There's some static.
I hear it.
Is it on this side?
I don't know. Y'all just yeah, is it on your end?
Huh.
There you go. I think your headphones were doing it.
Okay. A matter of fact, I'm gonna unplug that headphone because I don't have to use it. Give me 1 second.
Okay.
Okay.
There you go.
Hopefully I did it.
Yep, it did. It did. All right, it is 8 o'clock. It's time for a Father's Authority. Another show tonight, guys. Welcome. Again, my name is Nate Holloway, and I have a special guest tonight. One of my mentors, Pastor John Lofton. We're going to have a great show tonight. Those of you that are on, again, let me know where you're watching from, your name and where you're watching from. And we're going to get started. For those of you who don't know, a Father's Authority exists to change the narrative on fatherhood and start a conversation on fatherlessness. We want to change how fathers interact with their children, we want fathers to come back into the lives of their children, and we want fathers to just be the fathers God created them to be, and to be victorious.
Amen.
We have a special guest. Again, I say he's one of my mentors. We have Pastor John Lofton from Covenant Community Church. Pastor John, how you doing tonight?
I am doing well, man. I hope you are.
I'm well. Guys, Pastor John is the senior pastor and founder of Covenant Community Church here in Charlotte, North Carolina, West Indian Trail.
Yeah.
North Carolina. He's a father of 2 daughters. He lives with his wife of 24 years, right?
24 years.
And here in North Carolina, and he can give us some wisdom on that. But we are going to get started. He's a very good friend of mine. He's a mentor of mine. And I've gleaned a lot of wisdom from him in the 2 years I've been here. And but we're going to get started tonight. Pastor John, we want to talk about, tell us your story about growing up with your father and how things were in your life with your father.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Nate. Matter of fact, let me just say it's an honor to be on. I appreciate you inviting me and being a part of this conversation. I think it's needed. I think it, and even as you're wrapping up on your podcast, I think you ought to kick it up again, because I think some of the things that the men have been sharing on your show have been profound.
Thank you.
And so I appreciate you taking that initiative and stepping out there and getting this done. And I really consider it an honor to be here. So for me, man, I grew up in a place called Mobile, Alabama. Yeah. So I call it LA, Lower Alabama. So I grew up in a place called, maybe some of my friends from the Mobile area will know this. I grew up in a place called the Terrace out in the Hillsdale Heights area. And, you know, we didn't have a whole lot, but we had everything that we needed. And my dad was in the house. My father was a good provider. But my dad is from that generation where, you know, he grew up tough. So we grew up tough. Okay. Don't ask a whole lot of questions. Just be a man. So a lot of those critical questions that I needed answered, I actually, it was trial and error, to be honest. Okay. And sometimes that's not the best way for you to learn something. But since I didn't feel like I had anywhere to go, we turned to, when you grow up in the hood, you turn to where you always turn to, your boys, you know, or someone else that you think is cool in the neighborhood. You want to emulate them, want to be just like them because they got all the chicks, you know. So
right.
So I made a lot of mistakes growing up in my teens, joined the Marine Corps and at 18 and got out of that and I was in the reserves and going to college and everything. But once I got back to Mobile to finish college, was when I met my bride, and Elaine. And Elaine, when I met her, Caitlin at that time had just turned 2 years old. And so when we began to date and everything, it got serious. And I knew that there were some things in my life that really, really needed to change. And in order to be a father, I knew I couldn't be the same man as like a little single guy, do my little thing. I actually had to take responsibility before this young life that I was about to marry into, because this was a blended family situation. I already had a daughter that was out in the Texas area, but we were here in Mobile, Alabama. And so even though I didn't have a lot of the tools that I wish I had as a young man, and sometimes I use that as an excuse, which is I learned much later in life that I can't allow someone else to hold me hostage. And I'll get into that a little bit later. But when Elaine and I decided to get married, a lot of things had to change. Things that I didn't understand, I had to find out. I had to discover. I had to find someone, you know, to teach me, you know, not only to be a husband, but man, how do I do this father thing? You know, what am I to do? And at that critical time in my life too, I was discovering this church thing, if you know what I mean. You know, I was one of those kids where your mother dragged you to church, you know, when you were younger. But as soon as I got of age, of course, I ran completely from the church, but I knew some things in my life had to change. I was struggling with alcohol at the time, and you know, sometimes when you hit a crossroads, you have to determine if you're going to continue down this path of no retreat, or are you going to, you know, take that path where you're going to have to make some changes in your life in order for your life to change. So I began to, Elaine and I, we got married, moved to the Atlanta, Georgia area. And that's when we began to discover things about the Lord. I had hit a low point in my life and actually was considering suicide at that time. Things hit a low point for me. And, you know, I didn't know a whole lot about prayer. You know, people can pray some of the most eloquent prayers and they knew so much about the word. And I didn't know anything. I was straight off of the streets, but I knew one thing is I couldn't continue like I was going. And I went into a room and I just said, Lord, you know, I don't know you. I know my mama knows you, but I don't know you. But if you help me tonight, I'll live the rest of my life for you. And that was my salvation experience. I didn't see angels. The room didn't light up. I didn't hear any noises. I didn't hear trumpets. I mean, some people have the most eloquent salvation stories. And I go, wow. I'm like, man, I missed out because I didn't do any of that stuff, man. And that's powerful stuff. But nothing like that happened. But I knew something in me changed. And that's when I knew that You don't necessarily have to say the salvation prayer to have a conversion, because I'm a living witness of that. And so from that point on, man, things just began to change in my life. Elaine and I, we found a good church home. And I got plugged in with a pastor there. His name is Greg Gober, still a mentor of mine today in the Atlanta area. And man, he just began to show me, shape me. And let me just say this. Every man needs another man in his life. Mm-hmm. And I don't care how old you are. I don't care how young you are. You still need a man, because I still needed a man to initiate me.
That's good.
And that's what he did for me. That's what Greg did for me. And through his life and how he treated his wife and how he treated his children, it really gave me an example of how to be a man of God that's a father, because now I got this now as my standard. Mm-hmm. And we can't truly know how to be a father or understand the fatherhood without understanding the father. And so that gave me my background for, you know, the word of God and understanding I had to be submitted, you know, understanding how to treat my wife and my babies. And from there, I just had a hunger to continue to grow and develop as a man. And now the Lord has put wonderful guys like you in my life and other men that I get an opportunity to continue to talk to. You call it mentoring, man, I call it friendship, because without a true friendship, there's no mentorship. So that's pretty much my story, man. And it's a continual journey.
So, and I like that. I love your story. I've heard it before. And I have to say that I remember the first time I came to your church to visit was Father's Day. And it was you spoke a good message, but then you called all the fathers up now, and you affirmed all the fathers. Now I've been affirmed before, but it felt good to have it done again. Yeah, growing up without a father, as men, we need the affirmation. Young men, children need the affirmation from their father. Let them know that they are men. And I believe Caleb was 1 when we moved here. You know, he had just turned 2, because it was our father's birthday in April, I believe. Keisha, correct me if I'm wrong on that. But I think he just turned 2, and I'm still learning, as I'm still now, to be a father to him. And I remember after that, we've had conversations where I've asked you some advice on discipline and things like that about him. But that affirmation helped me, and that day was the day when I felt led to reach out to you. But you had already reached out to me as a friend, but I felt led to reach out to you as a mentor and another father figure in my life, because I tell the story all the time, guys, about, you guys hear me tell about every season of my life, God had a mentor, a father figure in my life. So when I moved to Charlotte, there was another season in my life where I did that, and you became that. You were that guy here, and it's just God's grace for me that every season that he's looking out for me and giving me what I need and what I need to learn and who I need in my life to do that. But you talked about how your father was from the era where it was hard, I guess what I say as I do. How did that impact you, and did it impact your fathering as you became a father to your daughters?
Yeah, that's a great question. Because you look at it from 2 ways. One way you look at it is it gave me incredible disciplines. My father grew up from nothing, didn't even have a high school education, and he worked his way up to be the head of maintenance of a chemical company there in our local area. So one of the things I got from my father is a great work ethic, right? Okay. So those good traits I got from him, and stability and consistency I got from him. The things that I had to learn later is how to be vulnerable, how to be transparent, how to be loving. Those things I had to learn later, because if Elaine was sitting next to me now, she would say, I was uncomfortable holding her hand because I didn't see a whole lot of that in my household, right? Or I was uncomfortable just hugging. I wasn't a touchy-feely kind of person, but her family was. So when I would go and visit her pops, who later became my mentor, he's since passed now, man, he would come and give me this hug, and sometimes he would kiss me on the face, and I go, whoa, what is this? You know, and her aunts, man, would hug and kiss me on the face, and I'm like, wow, man, this, I don't know if I'm ready for this, right? But they were so loving, and I had to learn how just to be vulnerable, how to open up, and how to receive that love. And when I did that, that allowed me to express more physical touch with my daughter, with my wife, and so again, I did learn some great things. Like I said, my father was a wonderful provider, but there were some other attributes that I had to pick up from other men of God, like you talk about mentors who initiated other areas in me that I didn't even realize was there.
That's good. That's good. That's good. And every man need that. So let me ask you, what's the best part of being a father?
Wow, man, that's a good question right there. I think for me, it allows me to share with my girls some of the areas in my life where I hit pitfalls, areas in my life where I felt like I should have made different decisions.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, in my book, one of the titles is called Potholes in the Road. And what I'm trying to do as a father is, as best, and I know all parents do this, as best as we can, to try to share bits of wisdom and understanding from our lives, even if it's bad, to try to prevent our children from falling into the same pitfalls that we have fallen into. I love the fact that, you know, I get an opportunity to just love my children. I get an opportunity to share out of my experiences, especially out of the Word of God. I get to exemplify what the Bible says, that as a man of God in your house, you know, you're the example in the house. I love the fact that my girls know I'm their protector, you know, and that I'm there for them. They don't have to worry that I'm going to, you know, violate them. They're safe with me as a father. And unfortunately, some daughters aren't safe with their fathers, which is an unfortunate thing. And so I get to provide that stability to them. They're being their rock. And then the biggest thing is they hopefully, now that I've changed and grown, that they can see me as an example of choosing the right man for themselves as a good husband as well.
That's good. And you can tell because Caitlin is your baby.
Oh, my God. It's almost like I had that girl. I ain't lying.
Yeah, she loves her daddy. She's a daddy's girl. And
She's definitely a daddy's girl.
Any man's going to have a problem.
Yeah. And even in that, with my oldest daughter, she grew up with her mom in Texas, so I didn't get that opportunity to spend some of those early years with her. But Caitlin was here, so, you know, I was able to start taking her out on dates when she was, I think she was 8 years old when I first started. Gave her a promise ring to wear, and that when she gets married on that wedding day, she's going to remove my promise ring and put on the ring from her husband. And so we made a promise together that she belongs to me, and until such time she can come to me with whatever she needs. I'm that example for her. Take her out so she'll understand how a man is supposed to treat her. Chivalry is very much alive today, and it should always be alive. It should have never been thrown a death blow. And so those are some of the things that she see as an example that I've been able to show her out on dates and in our conversations, going to Barnes and Noble for her to pick a book, or going out for movie and a dinner, so that she can understand that a man should be able to intrigue her intellect as well as her entertainment. So
that's good.
So that she has those examples.
That's good. And it's, I believe it's the same way for boys too, because one thing, that's right, you said chivalry. I teach Caleb that whenever we go to places, I open the door and I say, ladies first. When mom open the door for mom, so to the point now, when we go somewhere, and like when I take him to school in the morning, he stop. If a little girl with her mom is coming through, a lady's coming through, he say, "Girls first, boys last."
Wow, that's powerful, man. And you know, and I think, you know, as we're talking about this, it also speaks to the detriment of the lack of fathers that are in the household today and that don't get an opportunity to share that with a son. You know, we see a lot of insubordination in our young men. We see a lot of unruliness, lack of authority and respect nowadays. Because the father in the house, man, it brings a level of discipline and order that, you know, God bless our mothers who raise their sons by themselves. But when a dad is in the house and he's operating and functioning on the level that he should be, man, it brings such a level of order and discipline and love and respect that it's not, you know, commonly found in households without a father in the house.
And that's so true. That's so true. And I talked about that before because, you know, when the father, God's design was for the father to be the foundation.
Yes.
So when the foundation is broken, the foundation is not there, then the house can easily fall.
Yes, sir.
And so what Satan wants to do is take the father out so he can come in and knock the house down. Nothing against single moms. I believe single moms are doing a great job. I know some.
Oh my God, yes. Yes.
My mom raised 5 kids by herself. So
wow.
I know about, you know, being a single mom, but it's just they need that man in the house. And even I tell single mothers, and I said this before, if you're a single mom and you don't have a father for your child, find them a mentor. Find a father figure for their life. How important, tell them, Pastor, I'm going to ask you, how important is it for that single mom to find that a mentor or father figure for her son? Even if she's not dating him, not somebody to date, but somebody to be a father figure for her children.
Right. And I would say it doesn't necessarily, like you said, it doesn't have to be someone that you are dating. Even when we speak from a church perspective, there are some good examples and bad examples, even in the house of God. So I would just say you have to be careful on who's going to spend time with your son. Make sure you vet them out because of there's so much creepiness and things that are going on now. So vet these guys out. But once you do, I think that, you know, a mother, they do very, very good at what they do. But they can never show a man how to be a man. Only another man can do that. Only another man can initiate them as a man. And so having a mentor, someone from the church, maybe someone you know someone that's on your job that you've been knowing for years and years and years. They have, you know, sons, you know, maybe they can go out on baseball games together, different things like that to allow this man to initiate her young man. I know I encourage people in our church, if it's a single mother, to hang out with the sons in the house. When we have men's events, I want the men to bring their sons to every men's event that we have, because I want them to understand, you know, what it is to be around other godly men. How do we, they need to see that we know how to have fun too. We're saved, but we're not boring. You know, I love to have fun. I've never been a boring guy in my life. You know, I don't have a boring marriage. I don't live a boring life. And so our young men need to see that, because I believe sometimes they might see things like I did. I just, you know, when I saw men in the church, unfortunately, I saw the deacons in the church, and I was like, man, I don't ever want to be one of those guys. They look boring. All they do is shouting and spitting in the church, and I don't want to be one of those guys, you know, because I'm too cool to be one of those guys, is what I felt. And so I wanted to be me. I didn't want to lose my personality, but even though I got saved. And then once I read the word, man, I knew God gave me my personality for a reason. And he uses all of us individually. He uses our personalities to do his work and do his bidding. And so I would say for any single mother that has a young man, please pray, use discernment. But if they can find some way to find a mentor for their young man, I'm telling you, it'll be a world of difference for them, knowing that this young man can call another man for something that they're going through that this young man might be uncomfortable sharing with his mother.
Right.
He may be able to call his mentor and say, man, I'm struggling with this, or, just to be honest here, every young man at one point struggled with porn. Yeah. And so, he might not feel comfortable talking to his mom, but if there's a man in his life, he might say, man, I can't believe I'm struggling with this. And that brother say, I did too. At one point or another, I think all of us had this stuff going on. So, and just sowing those seeds of transparency and vulnerability inside this young man would show him that it doesn't have to be perfect, but he does need to mature. And I believe it does take another man to help initiate that. Yeah.
And you said something earlier about when you came to Christ, God showed you how to be vulnerable. When you had your daughters, you had to learn how to be vulnerable. And I think that's important for fathers to understand that we don't have to be hard all the time. We can be vulnerable. Right. Tell our sons that we love them. We can show our children that we made mistakes, that we hurt, that we're even wrong with it. Even now, one day I yelled at Caleb. I didn't mean to yell at him, but he was doing something, and I raised my voice. But then I realized I didn't have to. So I just grabbed him, even though he may not understand that. I said, Daddy, sorry for yelling at you, son.
Yeah.
But this is why you did this. You're not supposed to do that. But Daddy was just frustrated. And I apologize because I shouldn't have yelled at you and I shouldn't have disciplined you while I was frustrated. And if a lot of fathers would do that, even at a young age, even as kids get older, we got to realize that we do make mistakes. So if we apologize to our kids or let them know that we're vulnerable and that we make mistakes too, because I think every father wants to be their child's superhero.
Yeah, man, for sure.
And we try so much to be that superhero that we don't show them our weaknesses, and they can't see, okay, Daddy goes through that too. Okay, I understand. Daddy apologized to me. Okay, so I understand what Daddy was going through. So,
right. But and I think also when you sow seeds of vulnerability and transparency into your children, when you do make a mistake, they are already prepared for that. The opposite of that is you try to live a perfect life, and then they begin to see your flaws, and then they don't understand that, oh man, my daddy got some problems, right? They already know, my daddy already has told me that he struggled with certain areas. So he's not a perfect man, but he's my pops, right? So I think if you do that up front, that it allows your children to see you in a flawed state, to understand that, man, we all need Jesus. We all need the Lord to help us become the men that God has called us to be. And hopefully we're going to use the scriptures to help them become the men and women of God that God has called them to be.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Let me ask you, now you have daughters.
Yeah.
How important are a father's words to his child, especially to a daughter?
Wow. Yeah. One of the things as a pastor I get to see, to me, it's very interesting because my heart goes out to young women. I see a lot of times in the church, and unfortunately, it's still this way today. You usually have more women in the church than you will men. It's the same case in C3. A lot of them are single women that I can tell which ones have received words of affirmation from a father, and I can tell which ones have not. When a dad, I truly believe that a young woman gets her sense of femininity from her father, not from her mother. Because when a young woman comes in front of her dad when she's a little girl, they want to put on a little dress, they want to twirl around, they want daddy to see them. And what they're waiting for is for father to affirm her. That's why little girls will say, Daddy, do you like my dress? Do you like this? And what they're waiting for are words of affirmation so that they can see that their self-worth go up. Like, my daddy really likes my dress. He likes this. He likes that. And they need those words of affirmation early on from a father to affirm them in their femininity, so that they can see that they're beautiful. They can see that they have value. They can see that they're worth something, you know. And when young women don't have that sense of affirmation at an early age, they tend to seek out that from other men, and they get damaged by men who know that all that woman wants is to be affirmed. As soon as the guy get what he wants, he's out. He cuts and runs. And then they go to another relationship to get affirmed, or they go to another relationship to get affirmed, or they go to another woman to get affirmed. So, you know, those words early on in a child's life, man, are invaluable, because, you know, you're shaping them for their destiny. You're shaping them for the rest of their lives. And a father has so much power, man, in the house, because when you understand the fatherhood of God, man, then you know how powerful a father is in the house, because he's my source. Therefore, I should be the source for my children. Right? He's my provider. So therefore, I should provide for my children. He's my protector. Therefore, I should protect my children. He corrects me. Right. So these are all of the attributes of what the father does for us, and that we do that for them, and we correct them. We want to make sure that they have boundaries in their lives, and sometimes we have to give them the short-term pain of discipline in order to shape a child's long-term character. So we have to do that. And then the last thing, the attribute of God, is that love, that unconditional love that we have for them, even though they may mess up. It doesn't matter the choices that they make in life, that, you know what, we still love you regardless of that. But when you do affirm your sons and you affirm your daughters, man, it just, to me, it just gives them that sense of value and appreciation of understanding who they are. They suffer less from low self-esteem and identity issues when they get affirmed. So I think it's detrimental when especially a young girl, does not get those affirming words from her father.
That's true. That's true. And you can see it. I go back to the example of before I got married, when I was out there, when I was being a player. And but I noticed that the women who didn't have their fathers in their house were easier to get past the mother.
Yeah.
Because the mother probably didn't have her father. So you could charm the mom with your words.
Yes.
Get access to the daughter. And so my whole thing was, and I know a lot of guys' whole thing was, you get in good with the mom and you're in good with the daughter. But then when you meet that one that has the father in the house, and you walk up in there and the dad is standing there, and you like, what? I remember the first time I was dating this young lady, and she had a father, but I had never met him. And I was in the house, and he was a police officer.
Whoa.
And with his uniform on his gun, and he came and shook my hand, but had his hand on his gun.
Whoa.
You know, and that changed it. But and a lot of guys were straight from that, because, you know, if you got to go against the father, if you got to step up to her dad, he's going to ask you questions.
Yes.
Words. He's going to ask you questions. What are you going to want with my daughter?
That's right.
Challenge you, and you realize you can't charm your way out of this, because if you do something to his daughter, he may come and shoot you.
Yes, sir.
But if you could charm the mom, and I've seen it where the daughter break up with the guy because he's treating her wrong, but the mom is like, but he's a good guy, baby, you know?
Yeah.
Why? Yeah. Because he's gotten the mom's head with his words and charmed her. But as you said, that's why it's important for the father to be there and for his words to carry weight in the house.
Sure.
Father say, you need to leave him alone. And she has a relationship with her father. It weighs more than if the father was in the house and she didn't have a relationship, because, as you know, the father could be there but not present.
That's right. Absolutely.
So he's there, and his words don't weigh. Then he may say, well, you don't need to be with him. But she may be like, well, Dad, you just don't want me to be happy.
Right.
No, but if Dad is there, he said, baby, I don't think you should be with him. So then she'll take that more.
Yeah.
Her dad has an influence on her life.
Agreed. Yeah, absolutely agree with that.
So what advice would you give your children about wisdom?
Wow. Let's see. Well, wisdom is understanding how to apply knowledge and understanding. And so I think what I would rather give are attributes that I have learned to apply to my life. One of them to my children is to be grateful. Understanding that, life can be tough. It can throw you blows when you least expect it. But also life is worth living. But you want to be grateful for what you have. I think we're living in a nation where sometimes things are readily available. And I don't believe this younger generation understand how blessed they really are. That's why I would advise every young person to go on a missions trip. When you go on a missions trip with a third world country, you understand that those people don't have hardly anything, but they still are happy. They still treat each other fine. And you come here and we got everything readily available. So being grateful, I think, is one. I guess one of the other ones that I would share is learn from your failures, learn from your mistakes. Take your mistakes that you go through and turn them into stepping stones to get to your next level. Failing Forward is one great book that I read by John Maxwell. And it teaches you how to capitalize on your failures. Because in life, you will fail. There's no doubt that at some aspects of your life, you're going to have to deal with that. And for a person that's not ready for that, it can really take a death blow on their lives if they don't understand how to recover, or if you had a GPS system, how to recalculate now and get back, to your right path so that you can get to your destination. I think another one would, let's see, have outrageous dreams, man. Don't let anyone, steal your dreams. Go way beyond what you've always thought you could do, especially in the church, man. We think God somehow is limited sometimes. But we have an extravagant God. When you look at how God set up heaven, man, that brother is extravagant.
Yeah.
And so, come on, streets of gold, man, that's pretty extravagant, man. And so he's an extravagant God, and he doesn't mind you asking, those extravagant prayers. And don't limit God, whatever you set your mind to, you can do it. Just don't allow your past or people or problems to prevent you from getting to your prosperity. And so let me see, let's see if I have another one here that, yes, values, understanding your value. Because that's one big one that I believe a lot of people who suffer from low self-esteem and depression are people who don't understand how valuable they are. And that goes back to what you asked about, how important it is to affirm your children. If they don't get affirmed, they don't understand their value. One of the things that the Word of God does for us, man, it affirms us. It shares our value, how we're wonderfully and fearfully made, how God loves us. He adopted us. We were orphans, how he brought us out of darkness into his marvelous light. So through the Word of God, the Father, he's affirming us as adults. And what we're required to do is to affirm our children so that they will have a sense of value, a sense of self-worth and confidence that they need, that they can stand up and do a presentation. They're not going to be afraid of that. They're not going to be afraid of success. I mean, some people are afraid to be successful, but they won't be afraid of that. They won't be afraid to be around people that are rich people. They should never be uncomfortable if people got a whole lot of money. There are some people uncomfortable around people with money. And we should be comfortable in whatever environment that we are able to function in, because one day you very well may be that rich person. So, that you've always looked up to, and now you're the one, right? And but because the money is not going to change your value systems, you're still able to give, you're still able to be humble, you don't let it go to your head. So those are just some wisdom traits if you will, that I've learned over the years that I've tried to instill in my babies.
Okay, that's good. That's good. And yeah, I like how you said, dream outrageous dreams.
Yeah.
And one thing that my wife and I said that we never want to hold Caleb back from.
Man, I'm telling you.
Some people, some parents, if their child want to go to another country, they don't want him to go because they're afraid something might happen.
Yeah.
We want him to go on missions trip.
Yes, sir.
Him to
yes, sir.
Go out there. I gave an example a couple weeks ago about how I went to his school and they got a piece of paper on the board say what I want to be when I grow up. And by his name, he said police officer. And I was like, I caught myself. I said, no, son, you don't. And I caught myself. I said, you know what, son, you'll be the best police officer in the world. Because I started thinking out of me, just like, oh, I don't want to be a police officer because of the risk. But then I'm like, well, he's protected by God. So if he wants to be a police officer, then God has him. He's going to be protected. Whatever he wants to be, I'm going to be there to say, okay, son, let's figure out how to do it. Like one time he saw a plane in the sky. He said, Daddy, I can't reach it. I can't reach it. I said, no, son, don't say you can't reach it. Let's figure out how to reach it. So what we want to do is when we take him on a trip, put him in an airplane and say, son, you've reached the airplane. That's
good.
It's too high, but let's figure out how you can reach it. Not that it can't do it, but how can you do it? And that's how fathers can help their children, because we may think it's something that they shouldn't do, but it may be something that problem in the world that they may fix.
Yes, sir.
Doing it. Sir. If we push them, so we can help them say, okay, well, let's figure out how to do it. Let's figure out how to be successful at that. And I'm learning a lot with Caleb.
Yes, sir.
Things in those actions, because today he wanted to jump off the couch. We wanted to jump over my leg onto the other side of the floor. And I was like, son, no, it's too. And I called myself and said, no, give me your hand. Let daddy help you do it. And I helped him jump over there, which I know he's going to try it again. But in my mind, no, son, it's too far. You might hurt yourself. But in his mind, I can do it. So I never take that from him, that I can do it, but I'm going to help him. And, you know, and those are like words of wisdom, like I said, to give to him. And I'm glad you said that about that dream, extravagant dreams. I like that. And that's going to be one thing I'm going to tell him. I'm going to put that on his wall.
Yes, sir.
Dreams.
No limits. No limits, man. And you know, unfortunately, a lot of the fears that adults walk in, those are fears that their parents placed on them.
Yeah.
But it's so unfortunate. Don't do this, don't do that. But there was never a reason why we don't do it. And I hear adults talk today. I know adults today who don't fly because they're afraid, or I don't want to go across a bridge. Okay, there are thousands upon hundreds of thousands of people go across that bridge every day, but I don't want to go across this bridge. And these are phobias and things that were placed upon them as children for whatever reason that they still walk in. But you're right. Caitlin went on a trip to Greece, and it was Greece, Paris, and another place we sent her on when she turned 16 overseas. And that trip changed her life, man. And I believe we shouldn't ever put limits on our kids and what they want to do, especially if we say, well, I've never done that, so you can't do it. Right. Limitations that children, because my wife and I, we're pretty adventurous. And so we raised an adventurous young girl. We like to zip line. I know some people don't want to zip line. Oh, what if the cable breaks, you know? But we love to zip line. And one of the things, man, I'm gonna confess this. It's probably thousands of people gonna see this, but I had a fear of horses. I was greatly intimidated by horses. Man, they're massive, man. The muscles. Yeah. I was intimidated. I didn't like being around those brothers, man, because I'm like, I don't even like y'all. You know what I'm saying? And so the way that I defeated my fear of horses is I learned how to ride. And so now when we go on vacations, if we're in the area, especially if we go down to the islands or when we went to Cabo San Lucas, you know, we did horseback riding. So now I don't have those phobias to put on my daughter, because now she goes horseback riding and she zip lines. She travels all over the place like we do. And now we travel together. And I'm just glad that you said that about our children. Don't place fears on them. Let them go out and do the things that they want to do. They will be a success at it if you let them do what they feel like they are called to do. I know a lot of parents, they try to vicariously live their past life through their children, you know, or you wanted to be a star football player. Now you want to make your child be a star football player, and you weren't all that great when you played, you know, but you're pushing your child into something that may not be what they wanted to do. I always wanted my daughter to do volleyball or basketball because I was into sports, man, but she wasn't having it. She did chorus. I was like, Dad, you gonna sing? Oh man. And so, you know, and so we supported her in that. But out of that singing, man, she began to develop a great sense of self-worth. Because she was invited to so many different functions. And in most cases, she was the only young little Black girl there. And she did her thing, man. And it allowed her to see the world in a whole different light. And so I agree with you totally about allowing your kids just to let them experience life.
Yeah. And you got to expose them, because you said something. Oh, I like how you said Caitlin went over. You guys let her go at 16. And she turned 16 overseas. Now, my wife is the one in our family. She's been plenty of places. First time I went out of the country was on our honeymoon, and I was in Jamaica, you know. But I've never had the opportunity to go out of the country because, one, I was afraid to fly. Yeah. Growing up. So now that I'm with her, I'm like, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to do this. I'm ready to do that. Kind of expose. And that's what we want to expose Caleb to. I want Caleb to be able to, I want to take him overseas. I want to take him different places. I want him to be able to say, I went here when I was 7. Yeah. I went here when I was 10. I went there. And I want to expose him to different things, and not just to take the trip, but to learn when we're over there. I want to go to Paris to show him what the Eiffel Tower is, to see art. To see those things, to see what it is, why this country was built, or the food in this state, or those things, just to expose him. So what advice give us some nuggets to fathers out there, especially new fathers? Just give a couple of nuggets, success nuggets to fathers.
Wow, that's a great question. I stumbled a lot when I was a father. So the first thing I would say is you don't have to be perfect, right? You're going to make mistakes. Unfortunately, there's no manual on how to raise kids. This is a great manual, but every child is different. You can have identical twins, and one twin can go on to be a success, and another twin can go to prison. So all I can say is do your best. First of all, you got to have a foundation in the scriptures. You need to have a relationship with Jesus Christ. I'm a man of God, and so I would be remiss if I don't talk about the importance of this word in my life. Because without this, I don't think I would have I might not even still be married if I wasn't saved. And I know I wouldn't have raised my daughter like she is if I hadn't had a foundation in my life. So I would say first, man, do your very best to establish a strong relationship with Jesus Christ. Get the church mindset out of your life and start learning about Christ himself. Right. Because that people say, well, I don't want to go to church. I'm not telling anybody to go to church. I'm telling you to get saved. I'm telling you to get filled with the Holy Spirit, understand the scriptures for yourself. And then out of that, you can find a church. Because a lot of times you go into these places and they won't provide you that strong foundation that you need. I would also say link up with someone that's maybe a little older, someone who's already a father. Link up with them. Ask them questions, just like you're asking me these questions. ask them questions, take them out to lunch, hang out with them. A lot of times you are on your jobs, because I still work in corporate America. There are some great examples in corporate America, and these guys may not even be saved, right? But you got great examples there that you can just begin to ask them questions. Man, how do you do this? Why did you do this? What advice would you give me for this? Man, my child is doing da 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 da. Did your daughters ever do that, or did your son ever do that? How did you handle that? And so just being open and honest and say, you really don't have a clue what you're doing. Yeah. None of us do, And so it's trial and error with all of this stuff, man. We don't know all of the answers. So I would just say, give yourself a break. But man, there are incredible examples that you've had on your podcast throughout all of these weeks. I would say go back and listen to every one of your podcasts. And after that, if they don't have a foundation in what they need, I don't think they can get one, because you had guys from all walks of life doing different things in their lives, raising their children, doing things that they need to do. And they gave so many different wonderful nuggets for living that I believe any young father can pick up different things from all of the gentlemen that you had on your show. So, man, that's what I would say for any new father.
And I've had guys tell me that they've been learning from these interviews, that they've been learning, getting some good nuggets and good tips and learning things from the advice the fathers gave. And that's the main reason for doing this, because God told me to do this, because when Caleb was born, I was terrified, because I didn't have him. And I was like, Lord, what am I going to teach him? What am I going to teach my son? What profound wisdom am I going to get him about life? How am I going to teach him about success, about failures and successes? And the Lord just gave me, download these things into me to teach, which I put together. And then he gave me this. He placed this in my spirit to do. And every father that I've asked to come on, or every father that I do ask, God has placed them in me or led me to ask them to be a part of this. And that's why I believe that the wisdom is coming forth. And it's good, because it's Holy Spirit led to have these fathers on. And the goal is to get dads in their proper place as a father.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You got fathers that have been gone for years.
Yeah.
I want to be able to have someone or give some advice to those dads to help them come back.
Right.
That if they've been gone for you and never been there, just to be able to say, forgive me, I'm sorry, and come back and be able to start a relationship with their children.
Man,
and
that's powerful.
Yeah, because it's neat. I had one guy, my friend Legend, who was on a few weeks ago. He met his father when he was in his 30s, I believe, and then he forgave his father. The last words he said to his father was, "I forgive you." And then after that, his father passed away. But when he told his father, "I forgive you," it lifted a burden.
Yes.
Father, we had Pastor Simpson, James Simpson, week before last, who the man he grew up with, who he thought was his father, he found out later it wasn't his father.
It wasn't his father. Yeah, I watched that one, man. That was powerful, man.
But the relationship that built out of that, and still a relationship with his stepdad. So it was, that's what this is meant to. That's what I want a father's authority to do. That's why it's called a father's authority, because they have fathers to understand the authority that they have.
Yes, sir.
In the lives of their children and the authority that God has given them. So you have a book. Tell them about your book, Mixture.
Oh, here it is. It's called Mixture. Bam. And exposing the power of being distinctively different. It's the premise of the book is how there's a direct socializing of ungodly things with things that are godly. One of the things, as I began to pastor, I began to see certain culturalistic things happening inside the church that were not right. And when you read the true gospel message, it is counter to culture. And we're not supposed to be complicit with culture, but we're supposed to expose darkness. And so the book was written from that perspective, starting with the tree of mixture in the garden, the tree that was mixed with good and evil. It goes through, one of the chapters in the book is called The Company That We Keep. Is particularly when singles read that book, they get a different perspective about, their company and the people that they're around. Mm-hmm. And then I also mentioned that one of the chapters, I've been cancer free for going on 4 years now. I hit a big bout there in my life, a dark area in my time of still pastoring, and I struggle with an aggressive form of prostate cancer that kind of caught us off guard. And, like any other disease that when you get diagnosed, man, it just, you're in a whirlwind and you're trying to figure out right now, the only thing that was important to me then is living. And but I kept preaching every Sunday, even though I was full of radiation, doing my thing. And the Lord pulled me out of that, and I'm cancer free today. And I thank God for that testimony. And so I got a chapter in my book talking a little bit about my testimony called Potholes in the Road, that we all get hit with them at times. But how do we recover from those things, and even as Elijah would pray and send a servant out, and the servant would come back and say, I see nothing. In essence, what do you do when you see nothing? And that's what that chapter is all about. And a few other chapters in the book, Adam's Achilles heel and so forth. But and then also have a study guide that goes along with the book too, for those that want to do a deeper study. But they can find it on Amazon.com if they want to get a copy of it, or come by the church, and we have copies there too.
Okay. And of course, guys, if you can see on the screen, that's the website to Pastor Lofton's church, www.c3churchnc.org.
Yep.
Standing preacher. If you guys are in the Charlotte area, Indian Trail area, and you want to stop by, visit him, they'll be there to welcome you with open arms.
Absolutely.
Pastor Lofton, I appreciate you. Thank you for coming on tonight. As always, good guy. I appreciate your words of wisdom. We're going to have you on again.
Man, I would love it.
We're going to be talking about some more things, and we got to get up for our coffee soon.
Yes, sir. That's coming real soon, brother. We got to do that.
All right.
And it was an honor to be on, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate it. You have a good night. Be blessed.
All right. You too, sir.
All right.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye. You can hang up. You can disconnect.
Okay. All right. Let's see. Boom.
All right, guys. That was an awesome show tonight. That was my friend and mentor, Pastor John Lofton. You guys know what we do. If you guys have any questions at all, email us at krelationships@gmail.com. And you guys can follow us on our website at www.kingdomrelationships.org. Again, guys, thank you for tuning in. I enjoyed you guys. Let me know what you guys think. Email us. Let me know what you guys think. Any questions you have, anything you want us to talk about on interviews, just let me know. Anything you want me to blog about, let me know. And because we want fathers to be impacted. So, guys, until next week. Guys, this month we got some good topics for you guys. I'm going to start interviewing some women on fatherhood from a daughter's perspective. So look out from that. It's going to be coming from a daughter's perspective. And I know we're going to get some really good wisdom from that. So, guys, thank you. Love you guys. Until next time, be blessed.